Mixing with Mike plugin of the week comes from Audiority. It's the Space Station UM, that stands for Ursa Major, 282. This is a hardware digital reverb echo unit created in the late 70s, company Ursa Major, and it's a really cool delay. This is a delay reverb. I will say that my own personal experience is somewhat medium with this. It wasn't like my go-to device. It didn't always work in studios. They weren't in every studio, but when they were available, they were very valuable, and I did end up using it a lot. But I may not be as in depth with somebody who owns it personally. Someone like Chris Lord-Alge that has this as one of his primary effects, and I think it's even in his little CLA mix plugin that he created with Waves. There's some of this effect in there. Essentially, it's a pretty simple unit. It's just delay taps, and it uses those delay taps with regeneration to create reverb and a variety of different effects. And so essentially what you have is the signal flow diagram right here, just so you can see exactly how it works. When you have an input signal, you have a direct feed out, which actually has its indication right here. It's interesting, this signal flow, because in the description in the manual, it says that this feed is after the filtering, or maybe it's after the converter stage, and so you don't have a complete or full frequency response. It does have some coloration added onto it. The reverb echo switch that you see is the reverb echo switch that's over here. And the two modes mean that you primarily are listening to delays, or you're listening to delays that have some regeneration built into them to create a sense of reverb. So we have that. The filters are right below here, right? So you have high pass, low pass filters, and you could see somewhat of the staging right here. It's just the amounts that you see here in terms of dB, in terms of the gain reduction. And then you have multi-tap delay processor, reverberation processor. So when they describe it, they do this really weird way of explaining it, where they say there's like 16 taps, and you get 8 taps at a time. The 8 taps that you can quote unquote audition, which is weird, and 8 taps that operate in the background for reverb generation. So ultimately, the audition taps are the ones that you hear, and in particular, when you're in echo mode, you will hear these simple slap delays that are done through these 4 that are in stereo pairs, taps 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The delay times are set based on the setting that you have down here in the delay program settings. So you have 16 options here. And so if the switch is in, you have 4 rooms, 4 comb filter effects. Down in the bottom, you have what they call delay clusters, where they put the delays closely together, and then space repeats. Okay, so what you have, and the one thing that you can always count on is the fact, well, you don't know exactly what the delay times are for each of them, so you kind of do that by ear. But each one of these is just a mixer. It's not setting the delay time, it's just setting the level for delays 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the only thing you need to know is this is the shortest one, and they get progressively longer. Now, with things like the clusters, the variance between the shorter delay and the longer delay is less so, okay? Or with the comb filter, similar type of thing. But with the rooms and the space repeats, these delays get more dramatically offset. Generally, if you want to do it in a send-return configuration, you could take the direct signal out, although it does add some tonal coloration if you want to kind of mix the input in. And essentially, there's a mixed dry mode right here, so we could put in the mixed signal, so we could just hear sort of a wet signal. There's an option here for long and medium, which changes somewhat subtly, like the way that the delays are fed, especially with the reverbs. You hear that. And then there's an echo delay that only works in echo mode. And what happens is the direct signal kind of comes in through this echo, and then this feeds through the individual tap delay settings here and gets added in with them. So instead of this sort of being in addition to what's here, it's sort of added through them, which is sort of like a weird sort of processing thing. And so you can see here the reverb echo switch, depending upon what happens with this switch right here, and then it gets fed together and mixed to the output, and you're good to go. Okay, so if all of that makes sense, then let's kind of go through, and if it doesn't, rewind. But if it does, let's kind of move forward here and just kind of show some simple examples. So I'm going to start in echo mode, right? So if I hit it here, and this is a little bit weird to display. If it's a brighter color, it's up. If it's a darker color, it's down, right? So down would be the top selection. Similar type of thing here, right? Where you can see that's lower, darker, it's upper. So, here you can see a little bit more of the shadow, okay? But let's just start with a simple echo mode. And the delay times here go from 0 to 255, but you can multiply them, right? So there is a multiplier on here somewhere. I thought it was the delay. Yes, there we go. And then here you can switch it to sync, which would make it work in musical timings, quarter notes, dotted quarters, dotted eighths, etc., all the way down the line. I'm just going to use it in kind of a simple mode here. The other one that's important is the reverb feedback. This is how you set the length of the echo or the length of the reverberant energy that's created around it. And it's kind of really cool. The great part about this is you have just almost an infinite number of possibilities in terms of shaping it. And if you actually, when you work on the actual unit itself, it's pretty quick and intuitive to kind of go around. It's in some ways it's a little bit harder with only a mouse that allows you to adjust one thing at a time. Okay, but here, let me actually go to a different verse from what you're normally used to hearing here with this same song. Let's just pick up some vocals here. And it would be beneficial if we could hear them. Let's just get down to basics.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go through here a little bit just so you can kind of see what happens. So we have short delay.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
Right, so you could hear how each consecutive one gets longer, right?
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
And so you could sort of shape the way that it works, take them out all together, right? If you like. Here I
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of...
Right, so that's just adding more of the direct signal and just to show you that. Now, as I go through the different delay clusters, they will get bigger as I go along.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
Right, so we have that, and we also have a delay that's over here, right, that will can be a repeating delay in the background.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
Now, if I set this down to 0, it effectively is nothing, or a minimal sort of, it may create a little comb filtering or something like that. But if I add it in and I push it to sync, like say I wanted to add like an echo in there.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
Right, and then this would work here to add on to the delay time here. So I could add that into the effect. So it's almost having like a delay within this sort of ambient early reflection type of effect. If you get the, get the sense of what's going on here. So as I go through the different ones, you heard how it changed in length going through here. So let's just continue up the spectrum here just with what we have set here, just to show you some of the other things that are available.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
So now these are all bottom settings, just so you know.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. this semblance of tenderness.
See, these are getting more like what they call space repeats, a little bit more slappish, short slappish. Now, if we go up to the section here with rooms, it's going to soften a bit.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
So it follows the same sort of scale of what's going on here, longer to shorter, but it's a little bit softer, a little bit more, less slap-like and more early reflection-like, where it's kind of coming back a little bit softer.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
Now, when you start to get into some of these, you could start to create some pretty cool effects with the comb filtering. And the comb filtering is where the timing of the delays, in this case, between, tap 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, etc., are offset in such a way that it creates a phase differential where the certain frequencies get accentuated and in between they get attenuated, and it kind of goes back and forth up the frequency spectrum. That's what a comb filtering effect is. And usually with this type of thing, it's done in such a way that the frequencies that are on the left are not on the right, and the ones that are on the right, accentuated on the right, are not on the left or taken away on the left. So this is sort of opposite type of thing. And then it's just a matter of tuning in or timing the taps just to kind of set it right.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
Right, but you can time this out whatever way that you want and kind of work with it. So you could see how there's just like a load of possibility just within that, and then you also have the time delay, which is going on here. Now, when you switch everything to reverb mode, what you have is it now will change the context of the way that all of these work. So now you're not hearing the first 8 quote-unquote audition taps. Now you're hearing the ones that go through the reverb generating engine, right? So it's going to come out a bit softer sounding and a bit more ambient like. So let's stay up on the top, on the upper here for a second.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness. Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
All right, and this is where it kind of gets really cool.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
Okay, and now in addition to this, we also can use the feedback control.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
As a way to just create more reverb time, right?
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
Right? Pick the effect that you like. Let's go to the lower level.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness. Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness. Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
And then you got this long medium switch. You can see how the possibilities just start to mount and mount and mount as you go through it. And then it kind of becomes a bit more of an instrument, like a real kind of creative sort of engine here. And there's a lot of possibility in here. It has a very unique kind of character to it. I really like this combing effect, right, that's on the upper.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness. Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
So let's hear a little bit of that in the track.
Futile attempts to throw you away. I've reconciled with hopes of change. It claws away at my carapace. This semblance of tenderness.
And you can sort of create with these, with the, especially with the comb effects or the delay clusters, when you sort of set them right, in kind of like a tight way, you can create this cool kind of bunched up effect that makes things feel like really louder, and more powerful. It's incredible for like background vocals, great for lead vocals. For certain effects, you could just sort of hear the possibility here. You could even do effects for room, like I set one up over here just for drums, just to give you a sense of what that is. Right. And there's a lot of possibility with it. It's a very, very cool unit. It's something that you really have to kind of dig into. I think the most difficult thing is diving through the manual and kind of figuring out what the possibilities are and how the hell it all works. So it just in quick review, really, if you just start with either echo or reverb mode and kind of, work your way through it with there. Like in this case, I was actually in echo mode, not with the ambient mode, but you can, you start there, and then it's just a question of, setting the size in echo mode with the delay taps and the way that works. You got the echo delay. This only works in echo mode, not in, it says it right there. And then going through the different options just to sort of find like a quick vibe, using the reverb echo feedback to just sort of set the length of whatever effect that you have going on. The ability to kind of add in a timed delay there, within the center of everything else that's going on. It's very cool. It's a fun unit to kind of play with. A very unique effect, digital, from that, late 70s kind of digital, which had a certain analog character to it and a certain grittiness to it. And this captures all of that for sure. There's also some additional options like expanding on the delay. You can set high quality mode, which adds oversampling. That helps for sure. All this stuff is really for presets. Wet dry control here, input and output, and then there's a ducking control, which allows you to duck the effect when the input signal is coming in, so that and it will release around, which is a kind of a nice little added feature. There's also a way to get echo only and full stereo. So the original unit was mono in, stereo out. So this would make it more left-right. If you were feeding in with more left-right information, you would get more width out of the idea. So these were obviously not things that were part of the original, but have been added into by Audiority. So very cool one. I dig it. And hence, it's the plugin of the week. So there you have it. Audiority, Space Station from Ursa Major, the UM-282. It's the plugin of the week. Check it out.